Hey guys, I'm here with a treasure scramble video bringing you a guide for the smog round, the fog round. I'm not actually sure what it's officially called, but it's the new round of the treasure scramble. Now, as you can see, I'm currently ranked 1% or top 1%, and I've been trying out quite a few things. Now, the very significant part of this is that faction bonuses no longer work, and thus all things combined with faction bonuses, for example, Albedo's plus 30 signature item, no longer works for this round. However, that doesn't mean that the heroes are useless. They just, they're less useful. Now, let's start off with my teams. Now, for my teams here, as you can see, I am running a dimensional comp, and this dimensional comp originally I ran with Albedo because I wanted to see how she did. And initially I was actually getting an 80% win rate with the Albedo version instead of Damia. However, I realized that Damia is just better. However, Albedo definitely works in here, right? But obviously Emilia and Rem are the real carries of the show, so to speak. And for the second team, I'm really just, because there are no super good guides out there, I will show you guys a good guide later on in the video, but there are no complete pictures. Because it's a completely new round, right? So there's nothing to draw from. So I'm just using previously strong PvP teams as my teams. So as you can see here, I'm using an Awakened Soulless team and an Awakened Belinda team. And for the Awakened Belinda team, I'm using Olna here because I don't need Olna yet for another team. So this is basically just a more condensed Awakened Belinda team. But eventually you'll use Aziz here instead because Olna is needed in another team. But this is just what I've got going on so far, right? Now, one thing you guys can always do is check out the leaderboard, right? Because the top players, sure they have, heroes built that you could never even dream of building, but they also have a more well informed opinion of what's going on in the treasure round. So usually for my realm, I have this guy called Big Mac, who's usually the #1 guy. So whenever I'm confused about the meta, I go look at his teams, and as you can see here, even though Matria's SP effect doesn't work, she still makes it into this team, and then he has a Soulless and a Thalia team, and then obviously down here, as you can see, he's using Albedo, even though her signature item supposedly doesn't work. It's supposed to not work, so I'm guessing it doesn't work, but she's still a good hero that gets used in here. Alright, so we've looked at my teams, we've talked a bit about the round. Let's look at some early guides for this round because, it's hard to follow my teams if you don't have my heroes built. So let's just take a look at a guide over here in the browser. And as you can see, this guide, what do we know about this guide? It's in Chinese, and what does that mean? It means it's good. However, I'm not actually sure it's that good, this guide, because the guide is, it's fairly new. Of course, it has to be fairly new because the round is new. So it's more of a philosophical guide on the round, right? What people think might be the best teams. But if I zoom out a bit, as you can see here, it has 7 teams already mapped out for this round, and I'm guessing these are the 7 teams that this guide, assumes will be the strongest. But obviously, as you know, you can ignore faction bonuses altogether for this round, which means there are some interesting combinations that open up. For example, as you can see here in the first team. So for the first team, this is the Rem or Rem Emilia team, as you can see in the variations. And if you guys are whaling or you really like Awakened Sapphire's design, she also slots in here, and she has been used by many top players in PvP. Some of the guild members of my guild who are also in similar regions as mine, ranking in the top 10s, are also using her in the dimensional team or in the Rem Emilia team. So she seems to have a spot in PvP at least. It is yet to be known where she lands in Nightmare Corridor and where she lands in in a Curse Realm, right? We can't really know that yet for PvP, or for PvE, but for PvP she seems to be having some use. Now for the next team, as you can see, they split up the dimensional team, right? The next team is using Albedo Brutus, which is a classic combination, old as time basically, with the Lion Pet, and this is basically the Brutus comp with tons of shielding, and then Emilia in the background to do a lot of damage. And then for the third team here, you can see this is kind of a rush team, right, with the Solrath Lyca, the haste, the speed bonus using Awakened Athalia and what is he called? Tamrus, to jump in early in the battle. And then obviously the fourth team, no one expected anything else, but Belinda is here, or we don't know if she's here, but she is hypothesized to be here eventually, which I agree with. And then obviously we're going to have a Seal team, right? And we're going to have a Solus team, and we're probably going to have a Awakened Thane team, right? Because we have that in every other round of Treasure Scramble, so why would it be different this time? Even though the faction bonuses don't count, right? As you can see, it doesn't use for example, the Thane team doesn't use Sonia and Henrik, right? Usually the Thane team was just spiked out with a lot of light bearers, but now it opens up for different combinations of heroes since the faction bonus is no longer in effect. But I'll link this guide in the description, and it's not really a guide, as I said, because no one can know what the 7-team meta looks like. Obviously, there is the test server. However, there aren't a lot of heavy whales or heavy PvP enthusiasts on the test server. Those are usually on the main servers, so we don't really know the landscape yet. And as such, this guide is more of like a benchmark or something you can look towards. But I would for like your own research or whatever, I would keep an eye on the leaderboard, right, and look what the top players are doing, because this is constantly evolving, right? Because for example, Big Mac, I know he dropped Albedo out at some point, but now she's back in, so maybe there's been some revelation, right? And maybe someone figured something out. As you can see, this guy's also using Albedo. So yeah, keep an eye on the top teams, especially once we head into the 4-team, 5-team stages, and I will be back with a better guide hopefully at the end of next week, because at that point there will have been more information gathered, and also maybe the Neuromancer guild guide would be made for this round, right? Which is the one that I'm usually linking in my videos because it's so good. But for this round they haven't made one yet, to my understanding anyways, and that makes sense because it's a completely new round, so there's so much to figure out, right? It's super hard to do on the fly. But that was my teams. That was some suggestions to some different teams. Look at the top players. You can look at the crowdsourcing Discord server. There's a lot of different formations you can try out in there. But yeah, it's pretty much a free for all this first round of the smog, or the fog. So just try to do your best and rank where you can. Use historically strong PvP comps, and that will probably get you quite far. But that's probably it for me. Abyssal Expedition is starting soon, so if you guys are playing that, I hope you can get some sleep. For me, the timing of the reset is pretty bad, so I'm gonna be up for a while now. But yeah, it's the best game mode in the game, so I hope you guys are playing it, and I hopefully you guys have a guild to have fun with in the Abyssal Expedition. But that's it. Goodbye.